So good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Council on Aging's first online session of 2025. We have the distinct pleasure to hear about our Municipal Engagement Strategy that we have named the citywide priorities for advancing the well-being of Ottawa's older adults. I am going to drop in the chat if you want to download it. That will also come in the email later, but the whole strategy is linked there in the chat feature. So today we're going to start with a land acknowledgement and a little infomercial about the Council on Aging. We're going to give a profile of Ottawa's older adults. And then we're going to jump into a little bit of a history of age-friendly community development and planning in Ottawa, along with an overview of our citywide priorities. I'm going to jump into reflecting on our citywide priorities and our engagement on the city budget. And we will open up for questions. So first, I'd like to acknowledge that we pay respect to the Anishinaabe Algonquin Nation, who are the traditional guardians of the unceded and unsurrendered territory where we are located. We pay respect to all Indigenous people from Inuit, First Nation, and Métis communities who call Ottawa home. And near and dear to our heart here with the Council on Aging, we especially honor older Indigenous people and their elders who share their traditional knowledge and culture for the benefit of all. So without further ado, we'll jump into the Council on Aging. And in case you're not familiar with us, the Council on Aging is a bilingual, volunteer-driven, charitable organization dedicated to advancing the well-being of Ottawa's older adults. And you can find more information on our website. So what do we do? This is from our strategic plan. We bring people together. We are known for convening groups, whether they be older adults, community partners, governments, other organizations, as well as businesses from diverse backgrounds, to again help us think through and find solutions to older adult issues. We advocate for and with older adults and making recommendations to community decision makers. We develop and deliver older adult education programming, and we keep older adults informed through our newsletter. So as I said, I was going to do a short history of age-friendly planning in Ottawa, and I do have the distinct pleasure of being the director of Age-Friendly Ottawa. And there are 8 domains that characterize age-friendly communities, and they can kind of come into physical, social, and service environments. So we can talk about the hard city services like housing, transportation, outdoor spaces, and buildings. We can talk about social environments, about social participation, respect and social inclusion, civic participation, and employment. And then on the service side, the very important community supports and health services, as well as communication and information. And while the age-friendly actions in Ottawa predated me, we as a Council on Aging have had a very important relationship with the city. And we're relatively unique in Ontario with age-friendly community initiatives in the fact that we have a home for the older adult plan and the city municipal services within the city government. And we also have a community partner through the Council on Aging. And back in 2012, the first older adult plan came out based on a joint consultation between the city and the Council on Aging. And we consulted with older adults, and we had 2 plans, a municipal plan and a community plan, and we addressed aspects across the 8 domains. And we were looking at it from the perspective of how can we measure the impact. And we do have an evaluation report that we put out in 2017. And these are the goals: that older adults can use outdoor spaces in all seasons, it should be added, safely and with ease, travel and safely and with ease in Ottawa on our transportation systems, live in a housing that best meets their needs and choices, take part in different activities in our city, play an active role in the civic engagement, are respected and included, find, read, know, and use information when they need it, and live it at home with community supports and health services. And we are looking to update this evaluation report. From the community side, I have the distinct pleasure, and I see several of the volunteers and community partners, and I do see Teresa Kavanagh there. Thank you very much, Councillor Kavanagh, for joining us today. I have the distinct pleasure, though, of supporting 4 of our age-friendly committees. We call them issue committees, action committees, age-friendly committees, but housing, health, transportation, and income security. We do have Francophone affairs. I'm unilingual, so that group is outside of my portfolio, but an integral part of the organization, and that is coming back online in this year. And while the Social Inclusion Committee is now inactive, but we still have an intergenerational project called Engage at Every Age with the Andrew Fleck Childcare Services. So that is kind of a little bit of an overview of how we're structured and how we go about working with older adults. And I see I might have missed the profile of older adults, but we'll keep moving along because I don't want to disconnect here. So I want to go back to our strategic plan from 2022. The board engaged an external consultant, and we identified a renewed strategic plan with a renewed governance structure. And one of our first primary goal was about shaping public attitudes and policies. And you will see a lot of this language being repeated around advocating for and with older adults. We were planned to develop and implement a government relations plan. And so I'll talk to you a little bit about our plan as well as our strategy. We are developing a bilingual ambassador program to again bring out to the community what we do in both the convening, the advocating, the educating, and the informing. We want to create a presence in all city wards, and we're well on our way in doing that. We support committees to ensure our advocacy platforms are developed and communicated, and we'll walk through some of those as well, and make clear recommendations and share the results with decision makers. And as you can see, that language repeats itself. So following the strategic plan in 2022 and leading into the municipal election, we developed a plan that the board had approved in looking at election follow-up, requesting meetings with the mayor and the city councilors, and participate in other elections before they're called. And we will be engaging on the provincial election and the federal election in the next couple of months and year. We propose to engage with city councilors and meet with all 24 city councilors within the first year. We identified municipal priorities around engaging on the older adult plan, identifying an older adult advocate, champion, liaison, and supporting our ageism policy, requesting the city to develop an anti-ageism policy. So again, we maintain our relationships and try to make sure older adults are engaged on the file. In particular, we're supporting the committees to develop and communicate their recommendations, and the committees are at different stages of their ability to advocate at the municipal level. Some of the issues are much smaller. The two big committees that really do have a more robust municipal strategy are the age-friendly housing, as well as the transportation committee, and in particular our snow mole campaign with our pedestrian safety and walkability subcommittee. So when we developed the plan, I worked with one of the board members, the community engagement chair of the board, to develop a more robust plan. We were creating municipal platforms at the committee level, but from an organizational perspective, how do we again kind of focus across the board? We said that we wanted to identify several priorities that we could then monitor and potentially grade the city in this term in council. And we saw opportunities and challenges for both the city, the Council on Aging, as well as community partners working with and for older adults. And yet we knew we needed to ensure that the city and community services kept pace with our growing, changing, and aging population. We know that 19% of the population in Ottawa are older adults, and it depends on where you live. If you live downtown, you're more likely to live alone, in rental, and of an older age. So it really is quite from a demographic perspective, growing, changing, and aging as a population. And we set out priorities for city council and city officials, the Council on Aging board and committees, older adults themselves, as well as our partners and community agencies. We took a look at what the city had established as their strategy, and they were looking for a city that has affordable housing and more livable for all. So that concept of livable, age-friendly, you can call it from a youth-friendly, woman-friendly, culturally safe. We can really talk about it from a multitude of areas. A more connected with reliable, safe, and accessible mobility options, green and resilient, with diversified and prosperous economy. And we saw a lot of parallel. And with the work that we did, we saw some real clear areas that we could create engagement with City Council. And this strategy does reflect our municipal election engagement strategy, our provincial and federal. There is a lot of mirroring here. And we identified 4 priorities around demonstrating leadership with and for older adults. We wanted to create the conditions in that physical environment, social environment, and service environments to advance the health and well-being of Ottawa's older adults. Housing got a pillar of its own, and we want the city to invest in affordable and accessible age-friendly housing options. And we recognized when we developed this that the reduction of the burden of the cost of living was central to the work that we were doing. So those are the 4 areas. So in this presentation, I'm going to walk through a little bit of history of what each of these pillars we've been working on, because this is very much a documentation and a publication of all of our strategies that we have been working on, but not necessarily communicating as well as we probably should. So today is definitely one of these opportunities. So for each one of these priorities that we've established, I will talk a little bit about what we want the city to do, and we'll select a few, and they'll be highlighted in purple. And then I'll focus in on what the COA and the community has done to advance these priorities. So as I mentioned earlier, the City of Ottawa joined the World Health City Network in 2011 with our first older adult plan in 2012, and Mayor Watson and Councillor Taylor were the two city officials that accepted this, and it is actually just over my shoulder here on my shelf here by my window. One of our priorities was to have City Council identify an advocate or champion within the city structure, and during their governance review, they called them council liaisons, and we did actually successfully get a motion on the floor with City Council to appoint a council liaison for older adults. Councillor Duda moved that motion, and it was unanimously approved. And a few short months later, back in 2023, we had the distinct pleasure of having two council liaisons, Councillor Kavanagh and Councillor Hubley. And as I noted earlier, Councillor Kavanagh is here today. So they now become our primary contact, holding the older adult plan, holding the older adults priority in all the work that they do, similar to the other liaisons that the city has. So what can the city do? I'm going to focus in on engaging and partnering with older residents and community agencies on the new older adult plan, creating and maintaining a permanent home within the city structure for the older adult plan, and encourage and support annual events. And I'll pleased to share that we are aware of 10 events that the mayor and city councilors have offered in 2024. If any of your city councilors has planned and organized them, we weren't invited to them, and not to say that we wouldn't put it here, but these are the ones that we were aware of. We participated, we presented at a couple, and even sponsored Councillor Devine's. And we are now working on the 2025 events and already hearing from city councilors wanting to be proactive. So if your city councilor isn't on this list, call them, email them, ask if they had an event for older adults, planning to have an event, and recommend the Council on Aging. So the city did actually do consultation on the older adult plan last year, and did several focus groups as well as a survey, and they're just in the process of analyzing that data. A report of what they heard will be forthcoming shortly. And what I understand from the older adult plan specialist, the plan will be dropped sometime mid-year, June, she was saying. So what can the COA do? And it was interesting when we did present this strategy to the board, we had really focused on just the city, and they felt, well, if we're going to try and hold the city accountable, what have we said we are going to do? And if we're asking the city to do, what is our comparable activities? And so we did end up putting them and documenting them. So I'm going to focus in on the actively engaging with elected officials and city staff and give you a sense of what we've been up to. Request and support the City of Ottawa to endorse a resolution to implement an anti-ageism policy. And then our relationship with the city's Seniors Roundtable and other community tables. So as we said, we actively and regularly engage with city staff and city councilors. We're pleased to have an ongoing relationship with the older adult specialist, within the city, Lisa LaFontaine. We co-hosted the consultation for the older adult plan with 65 participants in partnership with the city. We attended, our volunteers and staff attended the 3 other older adult consultations held across the city. We have quarterly meetings with Ottawa Public Health around their healthy aging work. We did have a successful meeting with OC Transpo last summer and are working with them on our transportation guide. We are pleased to report that we've had meetings or contact with all city councillors. The mayor and the councillors are our back page of our calendar. If you haven't picked up our popular calendar, you have all of that information to help with you contacting the city councillors. The mayor and councillors attended our fundraisers, including the Walk of Ages, the spring luncheon. We adapted this municipal strategy to have a rural lens, and we attended the Rural Summit, and we're now going and meeting with the rural councillors, and we'll be engaging with our rural community partners to advance rural issues. And we did 2 deputations during the city budget, housing and transit. We have a resolution from our AGM that asks for the city to designate October 1 as International Day of Older Persons. And we are working on the policy on anti-ageism. For the last 2 years, the city has designated a National Seniors Day. And last year, the city did host a community event, an online event with the a well-known anti-ageism expert, Ashton White, on October 1. So we're well on our way in discussing it and getting support from city councillors as well as city staff. We have had meetings with the policy director in the mayor's office and Councillor Kavanagh and Hubley. And Councillor Kavanagh, I put it here, would love a joint meeting with you and Councillor Hubley, and we are looking to send that invitation this month to make it happen. We have a variety of membership and leadership roles at different community tables, including our city's roundtable. We participate in United Way Successful Aging Strategic Council, although that has been inactive for a while. We have relationships with the Ontario Association of Councils on Aging, the Ontario Age Friendly Community, the Ottawa Community Benefit Network, the Ottawa Disability Coalition. We recently joined the Alliance to End Homelessness Ottawa chapter. We are an affiliate member of Access Community Supports, or Community Support Services, Shared Resources, East Region. We are on the Champlain Dementia Network. We participate in the Financial Literacy Action Network, and we are also on the Safer Roads Ottawa Community Working Group. So a variety of municipal and community and partner tables. So again, we definitely keep older adult issues top of mind, whether they be specific for older adults or if we are a subpopulation, and really have built momentum across these relationships. From a city perspective, we monitor a wide range of committees and boards and try to proactively respond to policy decisions at the Accessibility Advisory Committee, the Community Safety and Wellbeing Advisory Committee, as well as the French Language Services Advisory Committee as a bilingual and inclusive council. We follow the Ottawa Board of Trade, Planning and Housing, Ottawa Community Housing, the Community Service, the Emergency and Protective Services, the Transit Commission, Transportation, and the Agricultural and Rural Affairs. And we have volunteers doing that and bringing forward issues and students also participating in that monitoring and following up with questions, deputations, and the like. So let's move on to the second pillar of creating the conditions. The ability for older adults to maintain their health is actually considered key to aging well. And the city services that do impact the health and well-being of older adults includes public health, the social, recreational, and cultural supports and services, police services, libraries, winter maintenance. Who knew I'd be talking as much as I do about winter maintenance? But we do here at the council understanding winter walking and safe and accessible winter walking is a priority. Long-term care as well as emergency services. So we have been pleased to watch Ottawa Public Health neighborhood health and wellness hubs be established in 10 communities and now being delivering older adult services in 3 with the plan to extend those. So very exciting. And through our quarterly meetings and relationship with their program officer, we have been involved in influencing the content of their program. They will also be delivering our Smart Aging program through those neighborhood health and wellness hubs. Prioritizing pedestrians first in snow clearing policies, and we're asking the city to release, approve, fund, and implement the winter maintenance quality standards. I already mentioned the neighborhood health and wellness hubs, but if you want to go in and check it out, do Google that. And as I said, some of these resources will be in the presentation will be included, and you can go and check those links after. From the COA perspective, I'm going to focus in on monitoring and intervening with and for older adults on city plans and strategies. Through our snow mole campaign, we are looking at the winter maintenance quality standards. So this past year, we have met with Councillor Tierney and Kit's office, Councillor Lowe and Councillor Plant, and really shaking things up and really mobilizing our community to build awareness about safe and accessible winter walking. We officially launched our snowstorming snow mole campaign last Monday. Some of you may have attended that. That video will be up and available, but we are inviting you to 3 winter walking community audits on February 4th, March 4th, and April 1, starting at 10:30 in 3 wards across the city. We are this year focusing on 2 urban wards that have a lot of issues and sidewalks with Councillor Plant, starting at Lower Town Community Resource, Councillor Troster, and we'll be starting at City Hall and walking over to Centertown Community Health Center and back. We also are planning one in Kinburn. We haven't confirmed Councillor Kelly, but we'll be stay tuned for more information, because we know winter walking is important around seasonal isolation, physical activity, climate change, as well as the safety and accessibility. We mentioned the city plans and strategies in the last year, and a couple are still pending. The older adult plan will be released this year, so we'll be monitoring that. We participated in the city's COMAP, which is their accessibility plan. We reviewed and commented on OC Transpo's accessibility plan, and we participated in the development of the poverty reduction strategy. We are watching with interest the master transportation plan, and will be engaged on that file with our transportation committee. And we met last year with OC Transpo about the transit service 5-year roadmap. So a wide range of policies and strategies that we've been monitoring and participating in the development, the implementation, and evaluation with the lens of what impacts older adults. And let's focus in then on the third pillar, investing in affordable and accessible housing options for Ottawa's older adults. And a real shout out to our housing committee. So we know that Ottawa is facing a housing crisis, and housing options as they're currently that are currently available are financially out of reach for many older adults. We do have a growing population with the expectation it will reach above 25% in the next 10 years. And we believe that better and more innovative options are essential, because we know that the majority of older adults want to age in place and in their community. So while we're looking to increase the number of available and affordable options, as well as incorporating principles of universal design, the two areas that I'm going to focus in with the city is the investment in innovative building models that create and encourage connections and relationships like NORC's, naturally occurring retirement communities, as well as facilitating the coordination of public health services with community partners, again, bringing services closer to home. Well, the city isn't necessarily addressing it. We did attend a health and housing leadership forum at the end of last year and working our way through opportunities to impact the housing and homelessness and health services plan. But with that, our committee and what the Council on Aging is doing is about bringing these issues to the forefront, building awareness in our community through a variety of activities to build momentum so that age-friendly housing options are embedded in our housing plan. We want to be a part of that solution. Throughout our age-friendly planning, housing has been the least satisfying area of all of the age-friendly domains. And over the years, the council has actually got quite a robust program around housing. We have published our very popular guide for older adults, and we're in the process of refreshing that. That will be released later this year. We have several smart aging modules on housing, one in our core program, as well as a few as standalones, including home modifications and supports and services close to home. And again, you can go and check out our website for both those resources, Smart Aging and the guide. We also have been involved in mapping out the naturally occurring retirement communities, or NORCs, through an interactive map. There is 170 buildings across the city that have more than 30% of older adults living in them. And the majority, which are in the Kitchissippi and Bay Ward, there's a very large concentration there. And we do have a supporter of NORCs in Councillor Kavanagh, so much so that 3 buildings in Bay Ward currently have supports and services to help organize through what is called the Oasis program. So there are 2 condo buildings as well as one low-income apartment buildings that have had services available to them through Queen's University Oasis program as part of an evaluation project since August 2022. So Old Forge is the service provider. We are a supporting partner and really support that initiative. We would like to have all NORC buildings and NORC communities, not just the vertical ones, but the neighborhood blocks and horizontal neighborhoods have services closer to home to support relationships, exercise, food, access to health services. They're an interesting group to watch. We also held a series of community conversations. These are just two of them. Our report will be coming. We identified current and potential housing needs and challenges. We're building momentum around those priorities to build them into our recommendations with city and community partners. And we anticipate this report to be coming out in the next couple of months. Through our survey, again, we've been able to visually present some of the data from our survey, and with the community conversations, key findings, and surveys, we're making recommendations to improve the access to affordable and accessible options in Ottawa. Because there is a real sense that age-friendly housing is more than four walls. A little sneak peek, the report is going to be called More Than Four Walls. It is about building connections and community. And believing that together with our community partner and city allies, we can advance and address the diverse housing needs of older adults as part of a broader strategy to tackle the housing crisis, make Ottawa more inclusive and livable for all. And then finally, around reducing the cost of living. Well, there are fewer older adults who live in poverty than any other age group. Canada Pension Plan, CPP, Old Age Security, and Guaranteed Income Supplement have really created a basic income for older adults that really has been able to demonstrate the effectiveness of those basic incomes. So older adults are on an income that will unlikely increase, and can have negative impact for the rising costs of cost of living. Yet we also know the city is quite generous with some of its city services, including property tax and water utility deferrals for low-income older adults and persons with disabilities. We have discounted fares for seniors for transit as well as social recreational, 65 for transit, 50 plus for social recreational programming. For transit service, we also have free shopping buses in two of our rural areas that go from rural communities into suburban areas in both the east and west. They're the 300 lines with OC Transpo, and those are free. And many older adults use that service. They provide financial assistance programs for essential health and social services. And many older adults are, low-income older adults are able to avail themselves of those resources. And you can find them in the older adult guide on the city's website. The city also manages a provincial program called Ontario Renovates, and older adults and people with disabilities can apply to receive funding to renovate their home to make it more accessible. There is approximately $600,000 in that money that flows from the province to the municipality. And we know that it is undersubscribed and an important part of the access to financial services. So I did want to share with you a little bit about the community safety and well-being plan, and in particular consideration for the municipal poverty reduction strategy. And we'll get into some of the other ones when we jump into the budget. Back in 2021, the city actually released a community safety and well-being plan that is provincially legislated. And it was a community effort that was led by the city, engaging with community partners. And they identified 6 priority areas: housing, mental well-being, racism and discrimination, violence against women, integrated systems, and poverty reduction strategy. And while older adults were kind of considered in it, we felt it could be addressed in a much more integrated way and participated in many of those roundtable discussions. One of their first recommendations was the development of priorities and actions to address local poverty under their financial security and poverty reduction pillar. And again, they did another consultation, did roundtables around the municipal poverty reduction strategy. The initial paper didn't necessarily identify seniors because they are a group that are least likely to live in poverty. But again, we demonstrated the opportunity to open it up. And when you talk about Ontario Works and Ontario Disability Support Programs, you can add OAS and GIS, Old Age Security and Guaranteed Income Supplement, because that is a low-income senior. If you're receiving GIS, you are a low income for some services. So it was identified, and when they talk about childcare, let's talk about elder care as well. And so we were definitely open to the possibility of having these discussions. And we identified the poverty reduction strategy as an important one that was released last year. We did note that in the community safety and well-being plan, there was a reference to the United Way Seniors Vulnerability Index, identifying 3 urban neighborhoods, Vanier South, Lower Town, and Woodruff Lincoln Heights, as a high concentration of older adults that were over the age of 65, had lower educational attainment, seniors that lived alone, on low income, as well as a group of advanced aged. And they do have a case study, and it's a fascinating index. And if you do Google Seniors Vulnerability Index, you can go and see this interactive map. And they looked at vulnerable senior women in particular around that. So back in October 2024, the Community Services Committee did receive the poverty reduction strategy, and we were pleased under the 3rd pillar of financial to see seniors identified in priority number 3.2.1 around the increased access to culturally sensitive financial literacy programs, and seniors there were identified. So through our network with the Financial Literacy Action Network of Ottawa, with the city's community safety and well-being staff and the poverty reduction strategy, we're making sure older adults have access to tax-related benefits as well as the tax clinic. And the city has designated $125,000 for the coordination of tax clinics across the city, and they are out for proposals on that. So again, just highlighting that the Council on Aging was quite involved in the poverty reduction strategy, and now we will support the implementation and evaluation. I have approximately 10 minutes left here to my presentation, and I'm going to focus in on the city budget because I did present this to the board and they commented, you know, we need to communicate this more, hence this webinar today. And while it's retrospective, I think it's important going into the 2026 budget, the final year of this term in council, we need to keep the pressure up to ensure older adult issues are considered in the city planning as well as budgeting process. So again, highlighting affordable housing and livability, more connected mobility options, a green and resilient city, and a diverse economy. The budget priorities was taxation, keep it under 2.9%, housing and transit. And that's where we ended up getting caught up in the transit discussion. So housing and transit were definitely two areas that we were going to speak out against in support of investing in age-friendly housing and transit options. We understood that the external financial pressures around, again, the ridership, the cost, as well as Mayor Sutcliffe's campaign for fairness of Ottawa. And so we monitored the budget from September, watching it roll out. The city has significant information on understanding the budget process, how to read the budget and the like. So do go in and get engaged on it. On September 18th, they also identified that they did have a funding gap. And if you notice, they focused on the provincial funding, and we have received federal funding. It was on the news this morning. There was an increase in the tax levied by 1%. We knew that the fares were going to increase, but they gave a margin of 2.5 and as much as 75. And we knew the fare discounts were on the table, as well as service efficiencies and service reductions. In jumping into the budget, and I want to acknowledge that the accessibility office in the city actually does an accessibility budget and distributes that and identifies city investments for their accessibility. And many of the older adults investments are accessibility investments. But we did also ask Councillor Kavanaugh for information when we did find out with the budget with the transit fares wanting to contain the cost. Councillor Hubley actually came back with a listing of different investments for older adults. And we took a look at that list from Councillor Hubley, as well as what was in the accessibility budget. And we identified several pockets of money within the city budget that would impact older adults, and a back of envelope kind of calculation, it was over 91 million for things like paratranspo accessibility, Ontario Renovates, essential health and services, long-term care, accessibility of the library, active transportation, sidewalk, winter maintenance budget. Our snow moles have pushed. Well, we don't have the quality maintenance standards. We do have a budget that's designated for winter sidewalk maintenance, and it was estimated at 13.4 million. So again, a wide range of transportation and pedestrian safety there that we believe are important. So under our priorities, the community service budget, that is where the older adult plan fits. And there is an older adult budget of 350 historically. And there was an additional 100,000 put into this operating budget. And we did confirm a permanent, a full-time temporary. So she has been extended as an older adult plan staff, in Lisa LaFontaine. So again, we are working our way through that. So pleased to see that come forward with our priorities. Under the Transportation Committee, we want the release of the winter maintenance quality standards. We did get the money and we're continuing to push the city councilors, and I already shared with you a couple of the events. If you want to sign up, you can go to our event page. We did do a deputation to the Planning and Housing Committee because housing actually sits under three departments in the three committees in the city, including the Planning and Housing, where that's the strategic investment and the housing builds, Community Service, where the housing and homelessness policy sits, and all of the housing supports, and then the building code around accessibility is under Community and Protective Services. We wanted an increase in available and affordable housing, and this was a part of our deputation. We asked for 30 million, but there was 21.6 million included in the budget. Ontario renovates the 600,000, and we're continuing to push for the investment in innovative housing, and our housing committee will say that's priceless, and a real important one, helping people maintain independence in their own home and communities. We noted the Board of Health and the health and wellness hubs. We didn't do a deputation because we were a little sidetracked from the Transit Commission. And it was, apologies, of course I get it right at the end when I'm about to finish, but I've been talking for almost an hour. So we wanted to maintain the senior discount and advocate for equity for rural transportation users. And we ended up with 120% increase in the seniors' monthly pass in the first draft of the budget. It was a surprise to both City Council and ourselves. But we also identified the expansion of the rural transportation around keeping it at par, and that was not anywhere in the report, as well as the taxi coupon program. And I do know that we are continuing to push on that, but we really ended up focusing on that seniors monthly pass. So as we were waiting for the budget budget documents to be released, watching the budget online on YouTube, we actually got notified of the 120% increase by a CBC reporter, and we quickly opened up. I was looking at housing. We already had our deputation drafted, and we got the questions. We convened the group, and Janet, if you want to wave on the screen, Janet Luloff, one of our co-chairs of our Senior Transportation Committee, and Ronald Marchand, as well as our Communications Director and Executive Director, Sarah Bercier, came together and created our key messages. And we were asking the city to hold the line that a fare increase shouldn't be a surprise in a budget and shouldn't be debated in a month through the media or by deputation. So we ended up fielding about 7 media interviews from the time the budget dropped until the end of November. We quickly turned around and did a bilingual survey, and that was a special email out. Over 600 people completed it, and as you can guess, they were not in support of a fare increase. We spoke to former leads, chairs of our transportation committee about the history of the senior discount and ride-free days to understand what were some of our policy levers. We sent several emails to the mayor and city councilors and city staff trying to, again, understand the implications, and we were able to contain it to the transportation We had already been monitoring those other budget lines and was able to contain it, and understood that it was contained to the seniors' monthly bus pass. We put a deputation and an oral presentation at the November 25th meeting of the Transit Commission. We followed up with a press release. We spoke with Councillors Kavanagh. Thank you, Councillor Kavanagh, for your understanding of some of those options. We also spoke with Councillor Gower and Tierney, who were a part of the transit working group for part of the budget deliberations, and were able to, again, negotiate some of the options and share with us what some of the issues were. And in particular, we understood that the proposal, the motion sponsored by Councillor Brockington, that was proposed by Councillor Bradley, was going to be come forward. And we wrote an open letter asking the city councillors and mayor that we published on December 9th to support and hold the line at the increase of the seniors' monthly pass to be at par with the low-income transit fare at $58.25. We were able to retain the ride-free Wednesdays and Sundays, and we have a commitment from Councillor Gower and Tierney to be a part of the long-range financial plan around fare increases in the future. And we successfully had a meeting with Councillor Bradley to thank her for her advocacy. She doesn't want to talk about fare increases. She wants to talk about the quality and effectiveness and efficiency of the service moving forward, and how older adults can use it and rely on it, which I was very pleased with. So while it was a surprise, we were able to mobilize our volunteers, our community members, and continue to develop our relationships with the politicians, aligning. We're age friendly. We're not out there protesting, although it was pretty close on this one, but we were able to contain it. It wasn't our ideal, but hoping that we've set the groundwork. And on that end, I always like to end with a quote, and understanding why age friendly. It is a life course perspective, and if you design for the young, you exclude the old. And the adage is, if you design for the old with safe accessibility, you include everyone. So that adage of 8 months to 80, you want that age-friendly perspective. So I will open it up for questions and open up the chat. Sarah's here, I hope, to manage any of the questions. Do I have any people wanting to put their hand up? You can hit the reaction button or drop a question in the chat. Thank you for the kudos. And William for the information about different programs.
Looks like you have a couple of questions.
Welcome. Maureen, you have your hand up first there, I see. And how do
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yes. Oh, one second, William. I gave Maureen the floor. She had her hand up first. Are you able to unmute, Maureen? If you want to hit the
okay, yes, I've got it. Have you been asked to participate in the quality or the performance management review that's coming up on the official plan?
We were a part of the community ambassador working group, I understood that, yes, there is one coming, but I haven't received an official one. Are you involved in that in some of your other volunteer capacity, Maureen?
Well, with the Federation of Citizens Associations, we're looking at metrics to measure not only the quality, the quantity, but also the quality impact. And one of the, of course, the strategic objectives of the city is the health and livability for all.
Yeah.
And so we're just working on that. And I was wondering if you had any input or any ideas on it, because we're trying to foster that type of evaluation. And aging in place is sort of a sub component of the livability for all. And that's why I was interested.
Yeah. That's interesting to know, Maureen. I do know we were quite engaged on the official plan community ambassador working group. I know age friendly was mentioned a couple of times in the official plan. Women and the gender lens was included. So again, working with our partners like the City for All Women's Initiative. Happy to sit down with you and share our previous input into the official plan and comment on your evaluation metrics that you're developing. Happy to do that. We've
Okay,
been
thank
working with
you.
a few community associations on different projects.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Maureen. William, I'll give you the floor now.
Okay, thank you. I wonder if I could perhaps ask Councillor Kavanaugh a question. Wanted to thank her for taking a leadership role on seniors issues, and I wonder if she has some recommendations for us how to approach our councillors and how to get them to support things like the NORC and the OASIS program, and perhaps also what more could the city do to encourage those programs in the city.
Thank you for putting Councillor Kavanaugh on the spot.
This is council and it's Bonnie's show, but in terms of reaching out to councillors, it's good to look at the local examples in your ward. That's how we got started in Bay Ward. I was fortunate enough to have Sue Garvey, who works with me, and had a lot of knowledge on this stuff. So, but start with low-hanging fruit of what's in your community that could be worked on, and bring it to the attention of the councillor. So these are sort of like getting things started, and they grow, and I think that's a good way to start. I'm also chair of Ottawa Community Housing, so I'm also looking at our 22 senior buildings, and they have aging in place in them. And that's really important. I think we're up to 19. We're trying to finish it up to have all 22 buildings have some kind of special programming to check on seniors. Isolation is a big problem. So you have to look at what can be done within the community, because a lot of this work was taken up by volunteers who got it started. It wasn't councillor led, just so you're aware. But bringing it to the attention of the councillors means that the city can be involved as it grows. We also, by the way, there's a provincial election tomorrow. I don't know if anyone's heard.
Not tomorrow, but being called tomorrow.
Tomorrow, and yeah, it's being called tomorrow.
Yeah.
Good question for candidates. These are provincial funds because they're support services, and which are maybe sent through the municipality, but they come from the province, anything social service related. So these are questions to raise. I think you should take advantage of that.
Thank you, Councillor Kavanaugh. And while I'm speaking here, I am speaking on behalf of our leadership team, the board that has endorsed this strategy. I just happen to have the operational pleasure of help implementing. And I wonder if some of the volunteers around the screen was willing to either put their hand up or wave or turn their cameras on, because there's many of you on here today. There's one, Ken, hello, Denise, there we go, Kathy. Grace and Valerie are turning their camera on, maybe. There we go. There's quite a Sandy, see? I work with about 90 older adults across the 4 committees and working groups, and about 30 community partners, including 6 city staff that are around the committee advising us. I didn't share that. It's the Council on Aging show. But relationships with the city councilors, drop an email. The city staff have been very responsive with us. If you ask a question, they usually get back within a reasonable time, and a follow up. We have many of our volunteers going out and meeting regularly with city councilors, in particular our pedestrian safety and walkability and our housing advocacy working group. And yes, we will be having a provincial election readiness guide, hopefully, similar to the ones for the last 3 provincial. So we'll have prepared questions for people. So Sid, you're next.
Perfect. First of all, thank you so much, Bonnie, for the presentation. It was really great. Maybe I should provide some context as to why I'm here. So I'm with the Gotta
I know
Go
why you're
campaign.
here.
Yeah. But for everyone else, I'm with the Gotta Go campaign, so I'm their current student placement. And the Gotta Go campaign, similar to COA, is a volunteer-run group, and we advocate for public washrooms and appropriate signage and all that jazz. So I was wondering, Bonnie, if there's anywhere in the plan that would include public washrooms.
Yes, actually, it is listed under what the city should do. And it's your direct, not Gotta Go campaigns around promoting, listing, and providing signage for all public washrooms. So I do know we've written letters of support for the Gotta Go around, again, isolation and people who have chronic health conditions needing to go to the washroom. It's a basic bodily function, and everyone should have access to public washrooms. And the city does have many, but they're not clear that a washroom is available. So we know your interactive map before COVID and student resources going into that. So it is under the pillar of creating the conditions, and it's one of the things that we've asked the city to do. From an age-friendly business perspective, we're not there yet, but all bathrooms shouldn't just be for customers. But that's another thing that that's a little more future oriented. But all public bathrooms should be made accessible.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Bonnie. Thank you. And for everyone else, check out the Gotta Go website.
Drop it in the
for more
chat.
information.
Yeah,
Yes, and I'll drop it in the chat, and I'll drop the email as well, so folks can reach out and figure out how to get organized around that issue. So just give me 1 second. And again, thank you so much.
No problem. Sheila, you're next.
Thank you so much for the information. It was really helpful. I just have, I guess, sort of a 2-part question, and it's related to the Indigenous community, Algonquin community, and Anishinaabe. So my first question is whether they are involved with the Council on Aging, and if so, where would they be involved? And the second one is related to housing. As you know, they're very interested in housing, those groups, and certainly they were very interested in the housing that was being built on the former, I think it's Army Barracks area of Ottawa. So I just wondered who those people might be and if indeed they are involved, and if so, how. Thanks.
Thank you, Sheila. We respect our Indigenous partners. We do, at this point, we have preliminary relationships with Indigenous communities. So for example, our Smart Aging program was delivered in partnership with Odawa. They share space here at the Rideau Hub where we are located. And recently, one of their members has joined our education committee to ensure that the Indigenous perspective is considered in our educational programming. And so again, we are leading with our following the lead of our Indigenous partners and inviting them to participate in some of our programming. The board did move the land acknowledgement, and we have that public. And then from a housing perspective, there is two housing providers that we've had contact with. Unitarian is developing their land and including the Indigenous population for the housing as part of their reconciliation plan. And we have also had a presentation at our housing committee from the Wigwamen group. That is a new development by the First Nations Inuit community down on Arrowsmith Drive, and they've received funding to support their development. So we're familiar with those two groups. We also, because we sit around many different tables, the Indigenous community is represented, and we maintain our collegial relationship and learn from those partners. So that's a little summary. I don't think I spoke out of turn there, Sarah. Just looking for some guidance and assurance that I've covered off. But I do know the Indigenous community is pulled in a lot of directions and invited in many different ways. But this is our initial steps for our reconciliation process. And Maureen, you have your hand up again.
Yes, I have lots of questions. Sorry.
No, that's all right.
I'm just wondering, Councillor Kavanagh brought it up with the elections coming up, and I think I understood that you're preparing questions. Will any of those questions talk about horizontal NORCs, because we're trying to work at establishing that in Alta Vista, and I'm just trying to seize or focus the question, and I'm not sure exactly how to do that. I'm wondering if you have, because it's our intent to go to the candidates in our area.
So from a provincial perspective, we're working with Seniors for Social Action Ontario. They're the group that is actually identified NORCs as a priority area provincially, and they now have a provincial steering committee. And so they will have some information. They have a resource page. Yes, in our provincial election guide, although NORCs were just coming into our policy agenda during the last provincial election. I don't know how robust that question is, but it has been embedded in all of our work subsequently. So I do know we'll likely be further developing it. And we are just in the process of developing a provincial housing platform. It will be going to our advocacy committee in February, which again will roll up into that election readiness guide. We did do a deputation, an oral submission to the Standing Committee on Finance, the provincial one for the provincial budget. So I can share that with you, Maureen. It's not on our website because it's not bilingual, but yet it hasn't been translated yet, but I can share that with you around that. So those are a couple of options around getting NORCs on the provincial agenda.
Okay,
Talk
thank you.
to your MPPs.
Yes,
go to your map and find out where they are. There is the ward map as well as on the NORC map. There is also the horizontal community CMA Canada metropolitan area with the color coding of the density of older adults. So the darker the color, the more the older adults in that CMA as well as ward from the
Okay.
2016 census.
I'll be calling you.
Yes, by all means,
Thank you.
Maureen, happy to consult and support this work.
Thank you.
I saw a question, is there money put in innovative housing in the budget? Thank you very much, Miela. So I do know that we are watching several senior housing. Well, I wouldn't call them necessarily innovative. They're innovative in that they're nonprofit, that they are looking at senior specific housing. So Eldwood House is looking to expand, and that's a church-led housing. We have both the Pearly as well as St. Pat's long-term care homes looking to further build out senior housing options. Unitarian, oh goodness, maybe my housing partners and not mine, the housing volunteers around it. But we are watching a few of the senior ones that did get funding through the CMHC funding that the city received. I know you're asking this question around home sharing. That is another priority around co-living and home sharing, which again is a priority under innovations, not just NORCs and not just senior only. I hope that answers your question. I'm mindful of time. I had said we would do an hour and a half for this session, and I did want to just kind of do some final slides here. Again, thank you very much for the opportunity to present our strategy and take questions from the floor. I will reiterate, have your own conversations with families and friends. Get informed on the issues. You connect, talk, and meet with your city councilors. They have pop-ups. Request a meeting with them. Join an advocacy group. Write a letter to your editor. You can do all of this and be civically engaged. Older adults vote, and we also want to ensure that we have services that provide for us without necessarily pitting one generation against the other. You can sign up for our newsletter on our website, coaottawa.ca. You can become a member, and I will drop in the chat our promotion for first-time members for $10. We appreciate the support of our members. We're looking to grow to 1,000 and have a sale on. If you are wanting to join any one of our committees, we also have other fundraising, communication, event planning, hospitality, as well as our policy and age-friendly committees. You can see our opportunities. We are a nonprofit charity, so a donation is always welcomed. You can follow us on Facebook. We are just getting more involved in our social media. Had been dormant for a while, but see our events and activities. You can also see some of our smart aging workshops that are coming up, as well as our snowstorming events that are available on our event page. So without further ado, thank you very much for all of your time and attention. We will be sending out an email with the copy of this presentation so you can access the links as well as the recording, and look forward to your ongoing engagement and conversation about what matters for older adults to advance our well-being in Ottawa. Thank you. Bye-bye.